the show. It's all about living a healthy life. It's not about doing ceremonies. It's not about, oh, which religion is the true one. No, no, no. It's about believing in yourself. It's about really enjoying what's happening right now. When you come to peace with your difficulties from your past, life is really fantastic. Even when difficulties come, you're not afraid of it. Yeah, no matter what it is, it might throw you off and get you angry, but like I said, those emotions have to come out. It'll be okay. Yeah, you will find a way. You will come to peace with it, and even if it's just learning something, you will find a way to make the best out of it, and it'll work for you. You don't need to be a member of any church to live like that. People's fear of being alone and fear of death, those are our greatest fears. And in the dualistic good versus evil world, we find ways to worry too much about them. We focus overtly or too much on these fears, which are real. Yeah, the fear of death and fear of being alone. We do anything we can to avoid those fears, and we do it out of desperation, and we do it not from our sacred center. Because when we believe in good versus evil, you're automatically not communicating from your sacred center. Okay? So if you believe in those concepts, then you are not communicating from your sacred center, and everything is going to be coming from outside of you. Yeah, you're going to look for a belief system and something that you like, and because you need that, because you're not communicating from your sacred center. When you communicate from your sacred center, you have absolutely no desire for a religion. Yeah, that's just the way it is. Because in duality, for one thing, we do unhealthy things in dealing with these fears. We jump into relationships really quick, because as you heard me say, low self-esteem is a product of duality. And because of low self-esteem, we think we can do no better when somebody gives us attention, and we say, "Oh, somebody likes me," oh, and so you go for that, and yes, it does feel good. No matter, even if you're healthy, it feels good when you find out that somebody really likes you. Yeah, that's just a natural feeling. But the problem is with duality, we throw ourselves at that person. Yeah, and we call it love, and it really isn't. It's dependency. Yeah, and we don't want to lose that, so we do anything. We lose weight. We put on lots of makeup. We wear fancy clothes or sexy clothes, or we always are performing at our best, and that's the problem. We're performing. We're not living. Instead, we're performing. So we're putting on a mask because we don't want to lose that. We don't want to. We don't want to be alone again. We don't want to be lonely. So we act on it too fast. That's the problem. Yeah, we act on it too fast. So then, that's how we deal with that fear of being alone. Yeah, fear of loneliness, and the fear of death. We deal with that by looking for a religion, because we want to be assured that life is not over, that it continues on. And meanwhile, while we're being so concerned about what's going to happen after we die, we're missing what's happening right now, because our focus is not on the here and now. Our focus is in an area we know absolutely nothing about. In the meantime, we're missing what's happening. Yeah, and right in front of you, this very second, what the things that are going on are wonderful. Yeah, like here, I'm sitting, but in my radio studio here, and I got the window open, and it's nice weather, and there's a nice wind blowing, and it's nice to hear that. Yeah, it's nice to feel that air, and people walking by wondering where that English language voice is coming from. Because I'm situated kind of around the corner. Like so if they want to look for me, they really have to find me. Anyway, but in this is what leads to problems. Yeah, these two fears that we jump at the chance to, so that we think we're satisfying those fears, and in the meantime that we're doing that, we're not really paying attention to what's going on in our lives right now. So when things mess up, it takes us by total surprise. But when you're living a healthy life, yes, it might take you by surprise, but you stand up fast. Yeah, you're able to say, okay, what's the deal here? Let's you got your skills ready. Yeah, how to deal with difficulties. Okay, what's going on here? Let's examine this. And if you have to release emotions, you do that, and then you clear your mind. Yeah, so then you can tackle whatever it is that's in front of you. So this is how we do that. But in duality, it's we're not communicating from our sacred centers, and next thing you know, we're communicating from, our belief system. We're communicating from our ideas, and not not from deep inside of us. Yeah, see that is where we get into trouble. So, communicating from your sacred center, you realize that so what concerning what's going to happen, and yes, you do think about the future, but when you stay in the present moment, you realize that it doesn't matter what the future is. That as long as you're living in a healthy way, you're influencing the future in a healthy way. Yeah, because when you communicate from your sacred center, if you've done this for years, you realize that a lot of times when you visualize the future, that as long as you're living in a healthy way, sometimes it turns out totally different, but it turns out better. You know that from experience. And you know that that's the way it happens every time. So you just say, okay, I want to enjoy what's happening right now. I'm going to take a bite of this banana, and I'm going to enjoy the texture, the flavor, and just really be thankful to all the elements that allow this to happen: the rain, the sun, the earth, the air, all the four elements here, and to produce such a wonderful tasting fruit, whatever it is you like to drink, eat, yeah, and wow, that's really cool, yeah. Then you go about and do your own, whatever it is you need to do. You take care of that, and you relax, and tackle difficulties. You help people. This is how we do it. So that's what it's about. And religion is not necessary. Yeah, it is absolutely not necessary, because see, religion is a product of duality, and as soon as religion is established, you're going to run into somebody who wants to use that power over others to control them, to get something from them. The Pope walks into the building, people start crying because they're programmed. Yeah? And nobody realizes that, or they deny the history of the Catholic Church, and that it's created one of the worst genocides. It's probably the worst genocide that ever happened on this planet. Was created by the Catholic Church it was committed against Native peoples in North and South America, exterminating millions of Indians in just a short matter of time. And that effect is still happening through programs that are funded by the Catholic Church, in which Native culture was destroyed, in which Native children were abused to beat the Indian out of them, so they would be civilized. That's all under the Catholic Church. That is genocide. And Catholics don't want to look at that. They try to hide it. The priests try to hide it. They deny it, even though the victims are still alive from the most recent attacks. People don't want to look at that. They only want to look at the part that they like. You look at a situation and you only, you see one part that you like and other parts are you don't like, but you just focus on the part that you like and you deny the other parts. That's duality. They refuse to acknowledge what the Catholic Church did in the past. And then people will say, well, that's how the church started in the beginning. Yes, they were brutal, but they've changed. Well, I thought God was perfect. I thought the Catholic God was perfect. If the Catholic God was perfect, then those abuses should have never happened to begin with. That genocide should have never happened to begin with, if God was perfect. So this is telling me God is not perfect. If the Catholic Church is the true church of God, then based on the actions of the Catholic Church, God is not perfect. Therefore, God is not God. You see what I mean? If God is supposed to be perfect, then why did the Catholic Church commit all these genocides? Because genocide, how does that figure in? When innocent children are being killed, when pregnant mothers' wombs are cut open while they're still alive, and the babies are yanked out and hacked to pieces, how is that part of a being's plan who is perfect? See, when you're a parent, when you're a healthy parent, you want certain things for your children, but you also want your children to learn how to do things too, so they develop into healthy adults. You want them to learn how to handle difficulties, so when they get older, they can do it on their own. You don't want to fix every problem for your children, because you're going to create an adult that's not going to know how to survive. So, to me, this is the pattern that if a parent fixes all the problems for their children, then that child is going to grow up to be an adult that's not going to know how to survive. However, if you teach a child how to deal with difficulties, the child will grow up to be a healthy adult. However, there's a third option here. You teach the child according to what it can handle. So you wouldn't say to a 5-year-old kid, let's say a 5-year-old kid was jumping around, climbing trees and fell off and broke its arm. You wouldn't say to that 5-year-old child, okay, that's a difficulty. Now, you have to learn how to make the best of that situation. You have to experience the pain. You have to release the emotion and then look at it and say, you think that 5-year-old kid's going to understand all that? Not unless he or she is a genius. That's expecting too much from a child. So you really observe your children by loving them and taking care of them. But you realize that there's a certain point where they cannot handle something. So you don't go past that boundary. But you stay close to it. So as they get older, and a little bit more mature, they can, they know what they're capable of doing. You're helping the child to realize what they're capable of doing. So you don't overburden them when they're just little kids. Every child is different, so one 5-year-old child may be able to comprehend more than another 5-year-old child. See, this is what I mean. It doesn't have to do with age. It has to do with what is the child like. Yeah? What can they handle? That's what a father would do. A mother, too. That's what they would do. So when an attack happens on an innocent, peaceful Indian village in 1868, was it 1868 or 1862, or was it even before that? Talking about Sand Creek Massacre. And in which a lot of Cheyenne and Arapaho Indians were killed, were murdered, were slaughtered. You know? And you're looking at the Catholic Church viewpoint on this, or any church. You know, how could a God, allow this to happen? People would say, well, it's all part of God's bigger plan. But for a pregnant woman to have her abdomen split open while she's still alive, and her baby yanked out of her womb and cut in pieces with the sword, how is that part of a righteous God's plan? You see what I mean? There can only be one explanation at this point. There is no God. That men took this upon themselves because of their dualism, their idea that Indians are not human, and that they're the scum of the earth and need to be exterminated. It's a man's idea. Now, how is that part of God's plan? If you say that it's part of, that it is part of God's plan, then this is showing you that God is not perfect. So if God is not perfect, then is he really God? See, these are arguments you have to consider. So I think we waste our time by saying, well, is there a God or not? While we murder each other, we form a new religion, and then we say, join this religion or we kill you, which is what the Catholics did in the early 1600s, actually beginning in the 1400s in North and South America, exterminating millions of Indians in this manner. Millions. And ISIS has only done thousands. Catholics have done far worse than ISIS has ever done. Catholics are masters of brutality. So, when all we're concerned about is if there's a God or not, then we're focusing on a religion. A religion keeps us away from ourselves, and it keeps us away from our sacred center. Therefore, we're either going to be an oppressor or a victim, because we only see things in two categories when we live like that. The part that you like and the part that you don't like. And then you use your religion as a tool to support your arguments, to oppress others. Or, you say you're defending, but you're really not. Because I guarantee you that there are spies inside these groups. And I guarantee you that ISIS was not created by themselves. But I'm looking at America. Because when a person who is really genius will look at duality and say, I can use this to control the world. He doesn't even have to be dualistic. But what he's going to do is he's going to create the hero and the enemy. And neither side is going to realize it, that they're actually puppets of something bigger. But they're being controlled and they have no idea. And then the people will choose to follow either side. This is how they can control global economy. Yeah? The whole idea of currency is an illusion. And whoever's doing this doesn't want the world to know that. So we work for money. We have to have money to pay for food, to pay for our bills, to pay for our clothes in this modern world. We're trapped in it. Yeah? But what we can do is look at it in a healthy way. And find a way to make it work for us. That's how we deal with it in a healthy way. Instead of going in a cave, going to live in a cave and using animal skins for your clothes. You don't have to go that far. Oh gosh. Anyway, so this, you see, in this, what I've been saying in the past few minutes here, this is the result of when people believe in something that has nothing to do with their sacred center. This is what happens when people are dualistic. They need a belief system to satisfy their fear of death. They need to have certain ideas to deal with their fear of being alone. And they'll go overboard. They'll become addicted to these ideas and these beliefs. And if anybody tries to interrupt that, then they go to war. You see? It's oppression. And sometimes we have to defend ourselves, though that's true. You have to be prepared, but to be the oppressor, you have to be careful on that. So it's good to know what you're capable of doing. And when you communicate from your sacred center, you know your capabilities, you know your limits, you know where it goes too far, you know where it goes extreme, things like that. You're aware of those things. But the number one thing about communicating from your sacred center is that you stay in the present moment. Because that influences your future. And you learn new things from the past too, by thinking about them. Especially when you've come to peace with it, already. And you think about it and then you go, hey, wait a minute, there's something... I didn't even see that before. Because see, you changed. It's during time you've changed, you've developed. So when you look at something from the past, you see something new. Even though it was always there. You just weren't able to see it back then, but now you are. Because you progressed, you developed. But staying in the present moment is how that happens. And when you live in the present moment, you realize you don't need a religion. Because you believe in yourself. You take life as it comes. Because sometimes, we get thrown a curveball from out of nowhere. And everything was going just nice, and you were living and enjoying your life, and everything was, nice. And all of a sudden, bam! Something happens and affects your living situation that you have to move, that you have to, you didn't even do anything, but somebody else did. That was close to you, and so you have to, you have to let the emotion out, whatever it is, you let it out, and then you start thinking, okay, how do I get back on my feet? How do I what do I have to do to make this work? How do I fix this? But you have to have the emotions out first. Then you'll find the solution, and you will end up in a better situation than you did before. As long as you learn from the difficulty. So you've taken an experience and you've transformed it. Sometimes you might have to talk to somebody. But you're the one that does the work. You're the one that learns. The other person is just there to listen. Because see, it's good to talk, because when you're doing that, you're releasing energy. And that might bring the answer to you by talking. When you're living a healthy lifestyle, you don't need a religion. Automatically, you deal with these two fears in a healthy way. The fear of being alone and the fear of death. you deal with it in a healthy way. That you realize you don't need a religion for that, because the religion actually keeps your fear alive. The religion actually keeps your fear of death alive. It feeds that fear. And so does the ideas of false love, love addiction, that keeps your addictive way strong. So you don't really know what love is. You think you do, but you really don't, because you're afraid to be alone. When you know what love is, you're not afraid to be alone, because you have love in you and you love yourself, and you just take care of the things that need to be done. And then, just when you least expect it, something happens in your life and you're with somebody. But like attracts like. So when you're healthy, that's a nice thing. So when you live these Lakota Star Knowledge concepts, you address these two fears in a healthy way by staying in the present moment, learning from difficulties and enjoying your blessings, communicating in a healthy way, receiving communication in a healthy way, giving and receiving and asking for help when you need to, taking care of yourself. Then you're at peace. So when the next difficulties come, you know how to deal with it. That's what it's all about. Living. That's what active living is. You do your best. I'm talking about how you don't need a religion to live. It's something you shouldn't depend on. That what you really need to depend on is yourself. These two fears that we all have, I think it's important to realize that no matter how healthy we are, that it is a concern. But a fear should not overpower us, that we should allow it to be and get to know it and make the most of it, because it could help us. Yeah, it could help us. As soon as we get that thought, we can train ourselves. We can make new thought patterns in which we say, okay, maybe you saw something on a news story like this plane crash that happened in France, this Germanwings airline, and it made me think, wow, life can be over, just like that, for you, because I was trying to put myself in the shoes of these people, going onto that plane. It's morning time. The plane, took off a half hour late, for one thing, and taking off a half hour late, and you're anxious to get home, or some people were going home anyway to Germany, and you're all relaxed on the flight, and how for those of you who've flown frequently, you know that when you achieve a certain distance, the plane starts to descend, and you feel it, yeah. You feel the sound changes a little bit, and then you kind of starts to go down just a tiny bit, and then in about 15-20 minutes you're at your destination. You've completed, and you arrive, and so when you feel that descent, you get anxious. Yeah, I'm gonna be there, and boy, I'm gonna have fun, and or, oh no, I'm going back to the wife. I better enjoy my last minutes of freedom here. And could go either way, depending on your situation. Anyway, you still think your thoughts change, is what I'm saying. When you get to that point, where the plane tilts a little bit, your thoughts change. And then you have these expectations. Yeah, maybe a half hour or so I'm going to be in the airport, and gonna get my baggage, and get a taxi, or maybe you have friends waiting for you, so you're going to be ready for that, and you're all excited at the same time, yeah. And then you look out the window and you're like, holy crap. It's like, damn, I don't think we're supposed to be and then you hear the plane shakes, like a boom, and you just realized, or some people realized that one of the wings just clipped a mountain, and then that's everybody's just like, oh, they're all like, oh shit, people are screaming, oh damn, and then just a second later it's over. Yeah, it's just gone. It's just they didn't even have a time to cry. They didn't even have time to pray. They didn't. It just suddenly it's gone. Yeah, that plane was just in smithereens all over the mountain. And so I start thinking, oh, gee, what if that was me on that plane, So you start thinking about your own life, and see, this is what I mean. If for some people it wakes up fear, and they, oh, I better start going to church. Oh, I better start praying. Oh, I better get my Bible out and start reading the Bible, and you never know. And then you turn in that direction, and maybe there's some good things about it, because maybe you eat a little bit better, maybe you're more nice or whatever. But the thing is, your focus is not on what's happening right now. You are alive, yeah. You have abilities, you have talents, and you're not using them because you're so worried about dying. I mean, it's okay to worry about that, but when you let that worry be the main focus of your life, then you're really missing a lot of things. And this is what religion does. It makes us focus on that worry. It keeps us away from what's happening right in front of us. So we don't really enjoy those things, that are going on right in front of us. And then for some people, they might be going through difficulty, and so they don't want to see what's going on right now. So that they use this religion as an escape. But either way, it's still keeping you away from yourself. If we don't face the difficulty, it's going to overpower us eventually. And then even the religion's not going to save us. So it's best to deal with it as good as you can. And like I said, sometimes it's a serious thing, so you have to seek professional help. But when you're looking for professional help, it's just like, looking for a pair of shoes. You want one that fits. Yeah, so you got to go around and find out, This one advantage of living in the city is that, for example, when you're looking for a therapist, you can go visit several, make appointments, and then just have an interview, and you can kind of get the feel of how that person may be. Because a lot of therapists really shouldn't be doing what they're doing. So that's why you have to really hunt a good one. Just like when you hunt for a good pair of shoes. Yeah, you want one that fits, one that makes you feel comfortable when you walk, one that you can really dance good to, or in, I mean. So, well, maybe you're a tap dancer, so you want certain kind of shoes. Yeah, do you see what I mean? So you gotta check things out. You can't just go to the first therapist and expect just because he has a doctor title that he knows what he's doing, because a lot of them don't. There's a lot of therapists are in depression themselves, and so they're going to give you really shitty treatment. Then they might go through a bout where they come out of it and where they're all of a sudden they're manic, yeah. And so they look at your chart and they're saying, "Huh, why were you taking this medication?" Even though they're the one that described it to you. You shouldn't be taking that. Huh, there must have been a mistake on somebody's part, denying it, that they're the ones that did it, yeah. So they put you on a different drug, and next thing you know, you're doing all kinds of goofy things, yeah. You're growing a beard and and then then he goes back into his depression and he sees you again and like, why are you on this? Do you see what I mean? You really have to find a person that works, because there's good and bad everywhere you go. So I don't like these people who preach against therapists, because that's saying everybody's the same, and that's not true. That's like saying all Indians are good. That's not true. There's some bad Indians too. Not all white people are bad. There's good ones too. There's a good and bad wherever you go. in every group, in every occupation, in every gender. It's the way people live. So that's why when you're seeking professional help, you have to really be careful in that, so you find somebody who really does have your best interests at hand. A real therapist wants to treat you so you never have to see him again, because that way you're fixed, or you learn how to cope with things. And part of that process is what I was saying earlier. And you take a fear, and it's okay to have these fears, but then you use them. Yeah, like say let's say you're just having a really nice day, and you're going along, and everything is hunky dory, as some people say. Nothing special, but you're having a good day, and then you witness something, yeah, and then it kind of like, gee, that happened so fast, and you start freaking out, and like, what if that happened to me, and then you go with that thought, and you keep going in that direction. It's like looking at an accident, and it's so horrible, you want to look away, but it keeps you looking anyway. That's a phenomenon, yeah. And no matter, you keep going that direction, and pretty soon you get overwhelmed. And all of a sudden you're a Buddhist, or you become a Mormon, or whatever, and then you really go extreme, yeah. You go just gung-ho in that. And you think that that's dealing with it, and really it isn't. It's denying it. It's covering it up. That fear is going to grow stronger. The more religious you become, the stronger that fear becomes. So what I said earlier, religion feeds the fear of death and loneliness. So you have to learn about the fear, and then you have to get to a point where you have to learn how to convert this fear into an ally. Something happens, and then all of a sudden, you start feeling, really odd, and then you're like nervous, and your breathing rate changes. It's really increasing. Your heartbeat's increasing in frequency, and you start sweating, and you're getting shaky, and yeah, and then you don't know why. Sometimes that happens to some people. They don't know why. It just comes. That can be a very serious problem. But some people, they do find out what it is. They do find out. It might be a drastic thing that you uncover a fear that you were denying the whole time. So that is hallelujah time. That is a great day when you uncover a fear that you were denying. That is a day to celebrate, because that means you're now on the road to healing. You're now on the road to health and well-being when you uncover a fear that you were denying. And sometimes you were denying it for so many years you didn't even know it was there. And you found it, and that's really a hallelujah moment, even though you don't feel like it. It is a time to celebrate, because now, once you've identified it, you're more than halfway to healing. Now, there's ways that you learn to transform that into an ally. And like, say, for example, a person who has a fear of abandonment. Let's say they grew up in a home where the father left when they were very young, and therefore the mother had to work a lot to support the child and the mother. The mother had to work a lot to support both of them. So even though she's in the child's life, emotionally she's not there, because she's working. And when she comes home, she's too tired. She cooks the evening meal. Maybe she gives the kid a bath. They talk a little bit, but the emotional bonding is not happening like it should. And then she goes to bed. So that's an abandonment too, even though she's there. That's an emotional abandonment. So this child grows up starting to form ideas based on his experiences, what's happening. And then the child watches TV, reads books, look, goes to movies, and false ideas of what love is begin to appear in his mind. And so he puts all that together and creates these unrealistic views on what love is. And then, so now maybe he becomes an adult, and then let's say he falls in love with somebody. Everything starts out nice, of course. Like attracts like, though. And by this time, since being a child and into adulthood, during that time, he's learned how to deny of this fear of abandonment. He doesn't even know, but it's there. And so he like attracts like, so he attracts somebody who has something similar. And they have this fear, both of them, but they don't realize it. So they go overdrive when something happens, like say the girl says, I'm going to go to the store and get some bread and whatever. And maybe it's just a 5-minute walk. So he says, okay. So she goes to the store, and an hour goes by. He starts freaking out. Why is it taking so long? Yeah, another hour goes by, and now he's really freaking out. But he's too scared to go look. This is that abandonment thing happening here. And so then she comes back, and then she has her bread and whatever, and he's like, half his hair's been pulled out, and and he's saying, where were you? And then she says, I got lost. She's I came around this corner, and I was like, where the hell am I? And I kept going, and I realized I was going the other direction. So I turned around, and because that can happen, if you go into a city and take public travel to a certain station, and then you come out, and even though you've been there before in a car, but come out from a train station under the ground or whatever, and you look around and you're like, where the hell am I? This happened to me here in Berlin. Yeah, I went to visit friends in Reinickendorf. That's the north part of Berlin. I've been through that area many, many times in the car, many times. At this first time, I took a train there. I got off at the right stop, and come out of the train station. I came up on the street, and I was like looking around. I was like, Jesus, where the H am I? Yeah, I was looking. So I called my friend, and I said, I said, Ziggy, that's her name, yeah? Ziggy, where am I? I said, I am. And she said, can you breathe? I said, yeah. Okay, so you're on the earth, she said. She's a funny girl. She said, are you at the train station? So I said, yeah. She said, just stand there. I'm going to come get you. So I said, okay. So from behind, she tickled me from behind. So I turned around, I was like, oh my goodness. And she said, follow me. She said, watch. And then so we went, and I was like, oh my goodness. I came around the wrong corner. I just came around the wrong corner, and I was not, just everything looked different. That I made one tiny mistake, and I just threw myself off. So I know this is possible, that you come around the corner and you're like, huh? And so it might take you a little extra time to find your way back. That can happen in a city, especially Berlin. And I've been here many times, and I came around a corner and suddenly I couldn't recognize the area. That's what happens because I'm looking at the same area, but from a perspective I've never seen before. It was the same intersection. I've always been on that intersection, but coming out of the train station, I was looking at it from a perspective I've never seen before, and that's what threw me off. So let's say this in the story I'm telling, this girl says the same thing to this guy. And he's like, and he's like just totally freaking out. At this point, this guy doesn't know that he has a fear of abandonment. Okay? And so now he tries to fix the situation. But, she's looking at him and saying, Jesus, guy's really freaking out. I wonder how come. So she might freak out next. Like, maybe this is a crazy guy. Jeez, maybe he'd tie me up. Okay, I'm going to play it real cool, and I'm going to make a break for it when the time is right. And then so what eventually happens is something he put in motion. He gets abandoned. So now he's abandoned. And he put that in motion subconsciously. This is what fears do to us when we neglect them or when we deny them. We end up doing exactly what we feared. Or we end up in that situation that we feared by putting these in motion. So when I say you transform that fear into something that works, now let's look at the same situation here. And the guy, is looking at his clock and he's like, she should have been back quite a while ago. And his heart starts, he starts getting this fear again, yeah? And so he's like, okay, this time he knows about the fear, okay? He's not in denial. He discovered it. He had his hallelujah moment, okay? And so now he knows that he has this fear of abandonment. So he feels his heart starting to beat faster, his breathing is faster and shorter, and then he realized, okay, here it is. Welcome, Mr. Fear. Now that I know you're here, let's work together on this. Okay, so that you might learn and do some breathing exercises to calm your body down and slow that heartbeat down, and start working, using the mind. Yeah, really start pulling the mind in common sense. And you're thinking like, okay, all right, so maybe something happened. Maybe something is wrong. So depending on what time period am I talking about here? I mean, if we're talking about 1980s or even 1990s, there were no cell phones, not on a reservation. So if I'm talking from that time period, okay, so you leave a note, yeah? You put it on the door and say, just in case you come back, I went looking for you because you were gone for a long time and maybe something went wrong. So I'm coming to rescue or whatever, yeah? And so if the person comes back and sees that, they don't freak out. And that person don't freak out either. And that person is saying to themselves, geez, that person really cares about me. So you're giving that impression. See what I mean? So you're using the fear to work for you. So you're going to feel those things at the beginning though. But you learn to greet it. And you say, okay, it's here. Yeah, the fear is here. Hello, Mr. Fear. Thank you for showing up. Now you're going to work for me. So you do your breathing exercises and you say, okay, calm down. Let's take a drink of water. Go outside, take a deep breath of air. And let's keep our heads above water. And let's rationalize this. Maybe something went wrong. Maybe she got into trouble or he got into trouble. I'm going to wait a couple more minutes, and if they don't show up, I'm going to go looking and see if anything happened. So then maybe you run into the person and it's, you're okay. And so I thought something might have happened, so I was just coming to see if everything was okay. And then they're going to feel that you're really concerned. Instead of being, where were you? Like that, So then they know you're controlling, and they're going to leave you. Yeah, you will be abandoned. So this is one way to do that. I mean, there's other ways that this could have been handled too, in a healthy way. This is the small example, and in actuality, it's more complex than that. It takes time to get to a level like that, But the thing is, it's possible. Where you transform that fear into an ally. So it works for you. So it's telling you, David or whoever, your body is tensing, that fear is coming back, just letting you know, So let's get a hold of this thing so we don't lose our heads. And so what it's doing is it's helping you to pay attention to you. So it's like an alarm system. It's alerting you. Heart rate, speed increasing, breathing is getting shorter and faster. That means the fear is here. Now let's face it and let's tackle